I'd like to propose a toast. It's a medley. Here's to the ladies who lunch. Everybody laugh. Talking on their cafcans and having a brunch on their own behalf. Off to the gym and to a fitting, claiming they're fat. Or looking grim, but they've been sitting wearing a hat. Does anybody still wear a hat? I'll drink to that.
Good evening. I'm P.J. Benjamin, welcoming you to WCKD's The American Experience. Tonight, we examine the life of actress Coco Vovant. Before landing on the name Coco, she went by the name Bertha, Lily, Beatrice, and Max. But her real name was Shaba Ravinovitsberg.
My name is Coco Vovant, but what people don't really know, hold on, let me finish my lunch. What people don't really know is that I was the youngest of 12 Hasidic Jewish children. Our father was a rabbi, and my original name was Abigail Hervitz Prince Rabinowitzstein. And we lived in a small little village in North Paris, or Paris, as you Americans say, called Saint Denis, which is Saint Denis in American. And my father was a very prominent rabbi, but when I was 20 years old, the Nazis invaded. And so, because thankfully I was very petite, my father hid me in a piano box and put me on a ship to America, to New York City. And that's how I started taking piano and drinking.
Coco was one of 12 children, but her favorite sister was her twin sister, Fava.
It was Paris. Mommy and Daddy, as I'm sure you know, were Hasidic. And they had the most successful acrobatic act in all of Paris. Now imagine this. If father could fly, mother's wig, it never fell off. They were amazing. And they were the toast of Paris as the only Hasidic acrobat act. Well, one night they were doing that most amazing, the double flip where they would come together and, well, it was a terrible accident. They came together into the net 9 months later. Coco and I were born. Oh, we're twins. Did you know? Did you do see? So we're born, and of course I was born first. Coco has spent her entire life 3 seconds behind me. I want that clear.
That's where it all began. And I ended up in New York City singing for my supper on the streets till I was discovered and started doing vaudeville with Vivian. And that's where your Brenner, my first husband, found me on vaudeville. And my first break was the standby for Anna in The King and I.
You played Lady Top Tim.
How dare you! I've never played a Chinese woman in my life. And that's where my story really began. And then that's where I met my second husband, Tommy Bourgeois.
Thomas Sylvia Bourgeois. I was her dresser on the original production of The King and I at the Broadhurst Theater in New York, New York.
Tommy Bourgeois was my dresser. And as it turns out, Bill Brenner was very abusive to me. He was forcing me to have threesomes with him and Mary Rogers, who is related to, is that one of the Asians? I don't know. And he saved my virginity and my sanity, really, and I married him, and we had the greatest, but the longest marriage of my life, 3 years.
It's actually a sad tale. She was seeing Yul Brynner at the time, and he's bald. And Yul and Coco had a very tumultuous relationship. One afternoon, her and Mary were in her dressing room, and I walked through the door and I saw Yule trying to place his head, his big bald head, someplace you shouldn't really place your big bald head. And I said, Yule, you'll stop that right this instant. But I was kind of her knight in shining chiffon. And we really had a connection. She always looked at me when I was taking off her clothes and putting on her clothes and hanging up her clothes and ironing her clothes and that sort of nonsense. Coco doesn't like to talk about our son Stephanie. She always thought that Stephanie was not the most talented kid in the tap class. I'm saying that figuratively, of course. He only took ballet. He is my pride and joy, and Coco wanted him to be just more talented, and he wasn't.
I don't have a son. I don't have a son, I never did. Tommy Bourgeois claims I did because he came out of my womb. But he was not my son. He never was. He didn't have any talent, not an ounce of it. He used to jump around the living room going, "Look at me, mother, I'm dancing." But he was merely jumping. God, it was embarrassing. He's not my son, he never was. Next question.
So that was it. And I went off with Stephanie, and we moved to Nebraska, and we've been there ever since.
But I soon realized that my career was going nowhere because I was married to a dresser. So I divorced him for a producer named Michael Stone. And Michael Stone was a very, very, very prominent Jew. And he was producing a brand new show called Whoopee, Charlie Whoopee. And it starred, who is it?